There's a nightmare before West Ham, but not for us. This is the Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Joining you on Friday, press conference day, of course. We'll talk about that and more. And good morning to those joining us in the chat box. Very much appreciate you all being here. And thank you so much to all of you for listening. Good morning to Matt G, Tom, Paul, Simple Unity, Black Shine, Carlton, Glenn. We've got Martin, NSW, Rowan, Knowledge, James, Paul, Arasilki, Lars, Stevie. We've got Zoom, Brian, John, Afsar, Morgie, Amber Lee, Colin, Grantley Poos. Thank you to you all. And thank you for everybody that came last night to TGT Live 2025. Thank you so much, everybody. It was a really great evening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you had a good time if you indeed were there. I am hoping to upload the audio at some point today. It may have an accompanying video. It may not. I'm not 100% sure yet whether it will, but there will definitely be audio. I'm hoping I should be being sent that later on today, which I'll upload as soon as feasibly possible for you. But if it means I can just post kind of like an audio version with like just a video with a logo across it, as opposed to, we did film it. It's just I don't know how it's going to go down in terms of kind of linking up the audio sound with the video. I haven't actually been able to see the video yet, so we don't know what it's going to be like. But yes, we'll see. We'll wait and see how good it looks and when it comes out. But it was a brilliant event. A massive thank you to the Old Queen's Head for hosting us for the second year in a row. A massive thank you to my panel of guests, Harry Symeou, Charles Watts, Clive Palmer, and Mr. Jeremy Aliadier as well. And it was just really good. Talk about Arsenal, a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. A lot of great conversations and chats. Everyone got to see my terrible haircut as well. Honestly, I've had a nightmare with my. Since I've moved, I've not been able to find a good hairdresser yet. So I'm looking, and it's actually dreadful. So it's so short, especially on the back, and it's like I was going in there. I was like, should I just wear my hat? And I was like, I can't wear a hat. Like no one else is wearing a hat. I can't wear a hat. I'm just going to have to brave it. I want to say a particular massive thank you to my other half, beautiful wife, G, who, of course, helped out a lot to check people in. A lot of you went up to her to say how patient she is and how brilliant she is to be dealing with me doing this. And you're very appreciative of her for doing all that. So thank you for all the kind words. It means a lot. So thank you. And thank you to you all for being there. Right. Let's jump into today's couple of stories, shall we? Drop a like on the video, of course. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And good morning to those joining us in the chat box. And let's crack on. Nightmare before West Ham, but not for us, because it's West Ham who are dealing with a nightmare in terms of their squad. It's not just Arsenal losing a significant number of their players, but West Ham are as well. Graham Potter, speaking in his press conference and his interviews ahead of the game against West Ham, has confirmed that Lucas Paquetá has suffered an ankle injury in training and will not be able to play the game, meaning Evan Ferguson is likely to start after his loan, of course, from Brighton. Crescencio Somerville is also expecting to face a few weeks out of action with a hamstring injury. Vladimir Sofal is also missing, plus Nicholas Füllkrug and Michael Antonio, of course, are both long-term absences as well. So a frustration for West Ham. The expected 11 in terms of what people are kind of writing about West Ham, what we're expecting to see from West Ham is as follows. Areola, Wan-Bissaka, Mavropanos, Kilman, Emerson, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, Bowen, Kudus, Soler, and Ferguson. That is the expected lineup from the visitors this weekend. But that is a very frustrating thing from a West Ham perspective, but it will be something that I think emboldens Arsenal with Arsenal's own injury issues that we're having to cope with. It's nice to see kind of the it's nice to see the tables balanced. And yeah, I was cheeky with the thumbnail this morning. You're going to tune in anyway. I just thought I'd have a bit of fun. But yeah, it is a bit of a night before West Ham, but it's not for us. One of my favourite memes of all time is that one where the old guy's got like he's being held up. Is he being like held up at knife point by somebody? He's like, call an ambulance. call an ambulance, but not for me. It's one of my favorites. So, yeah, I just thought I'd whip that out for the thumbnail this morning. Fantastic. Anyway, Mikel Arteta, of course, ignore that text. I just, for some reason, decided not to change the text. Mikel Arteta, of course, faces the media ahead of the game against West Ham this weekend. I'll be up there at the Shawbury Realty Training Centre to hear from the Arsenal boss to get his thoughts on everything Arsenal, everything that's going on in the world of the club. I imagine there'll be questions regarding kind of maybe the finances and what that means for the summer and his kind of plans for the summer and what he's expecting ahead of the summer and just all that to that effect, basically, and what we can expect in general. But that is what we're expecting, is that there's hopefully going to be some questions. That, of course, we might get some updates on the Bukayo Saka situation, on Gabriel Martinelli's injury situation, maybe some reaction to Tomiyasu's surgery as well. I don't know what I'm going to ask yet. Got a few ideas in my head, and a few things to think about, of course, ahead of such a big game. Robin van Persie might come up because, of course, he's due to take over with Feyenoord. There is the draw today for the Champions League. So that is set to take place around lunchtime, I believe. So we might know the result of the draw as of the press conference, which is at 1 o'clock this afternoon, because I think the draw is taking place around the same time. So I think it's 12 o'clock CET. Oh, so should that not be 11 o'clock our time? What's CET time now? It's 9:12. It's an hour ahead of us. So we should find out at 11 o'clock UK time. So we should know before the press conference who Arsenal have got. I'm curious. I mean, I'll put a poll in the chat box now as to who you prefer to see Arsenal drawn against. Would you rather Arsenal drew against Feyenoord? So who... I can't type and talk. Who would you rather face in the UCL last 16? You've got Feyenoord and you've got PSV. So let us know in the chat. Who would you rather face? Van Persie's Feyenoord or Noah Lang's PSV side? GZ4 says, Steve, I went back and watched Sof Show to find out who it was. If I see them. Oh, who is this? What's this? I'm curious now. Steve, where's Steve's question? Steve's comment. Oh, I'm going to have to scroll through loads to find it. We'll find it in a bit. Paul says, can I send you a couple of photos? Paul, please, by all means, mate, send them across. So Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you want to send them, send the photos across. I'll be more than happy to take a look at them. Right, let's go to part 2 and your questions and queries and debates and arguments in the chat box and more right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of the show where we chat to you guys and girls in the chat and get some of your questions, queries, theories, and thoughts about anything regarding Arsenal, really. So if you've got any questions, now's the time to throw them in. Now's the time to get some of your thoughts. North London Forever Steve says, Tom, what a top-class panel. I attended the 12-man event, but could not attend last night due to family illness. I will, however, attend future events. Please, if possible, invite me on a future podcast. Of course, we're going to try and do these every year. I don't want to do them more than a year. I had a couple of people ask me saying that we should do them more often. And I empathize with that because they're great. If I do say so myself, I really enjoy doing them. I love having like an in-person audience. It's getting that feedback to know that if a joke I make is actually funny or not. It's quite rewarding. But it's great having such a fantastic community and seeing so many familiar faces each year coming back to watch the show. And I hope you really enjoyed the surprise of the panel. I tried to keep it as secret as I could. I did kind of ruin Clive's presence yesterday morning by saying his name, and I think Clive was trying to hide it as he came in the door and failed dramatically. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Ashley says, "What's with Ødegaard left centre? What's with Ødegaard left centre mid? Ethan right centre mid shouts. Unless you want a new coach, that left centre mid is always going to be a 6-foot physical two-way player." And I agree with Arteta that Zubi at 6 confirms that. Ethan starts, or he's a sub for Ødegaard and Saka as well. I think that's the way that it's going to play out, isn't it? I'm pretty sure. Damien says, if your wife said it's either me or Arsenal, what would the wife? Obviously. It's not even a question. Matt says, Tom, can I send you pics of the recent holiday in Italy? Seems folks just want to send pics, so I don't want to miss out. Feel free, man. Feel free. Yash says, Marino cameo against Leicester was brilliant. Should Marino start against West Ham? That is the question, isn't it? Should Marino start? We talked about this last night, and of course, I'll endeavour to get that audio uploaded for you of the live show. I don't know. I think so. I think he should start. I think he should start the game. But it's odd because if you start him, who have you got coming off the bench to offer anything? Because Sterling is like not really offering anything, is he? So if you aren't winning with Marino in that situation, is it a situation that you can improve with somebody from the bench? I don't know. I don't know if there's enough. I'm not sure if there is. It's an interesting question, maybe one that someone should put to Arteta later on today. It is an interesting kind of scenario because if you start him and he doesn't score, and you're not winning, where do you go from there? What have you got? Whereas if you have him on the bench, you've got someone to come on and change the game later if you aren't winning as well. It's a real clash, I think, between what we should and shouldn't and what's the benefit of doing that and not. So, yeah, it's certainly something to think about. Let's have a see what people are saying on that poll. 77% of you want Feyenoord. Really want that Robin Van Persie reunion. Is that right? GZ4 says, Tom, with the amount of convincing Zubimendi seems to need to leave La Liga, is it a risk he becomes homesick? So would Baleba be safe? No, it's not. Go listen to Graham Hunter's appearance on Sophie's Highbury Squad. He actually answers that question, and he's just like, no, of course he's not going to be homesick. No, that's not even a factor. It's not even a consideration. So anyone worried about that, you don't need to be worried about that. Alfie says, Tom, where do you see Odegaard's future? Do you see him moving in the next couple of seasons with a player like Rice taking on that skipper role? No, I think Odegaard should stay and be captain, and he will find his form again. Odegaard's won Arsenal's player of the season for the last 2 years. He's not going to get it this year. He's not had a very good season. Players sometimes have an off year. But Odegaard is an absolute untouchable figure in this group and should continue in that fashion. Shaq says, is there any chance Arteta changing formation and playing both Miles Lewis-Skelly and Calafiori? I think the latter can help us, and having him on the bench seems a bit of a waste. I think Calafiori is offering something from the bench as a bit of a kind of an attacking change, an attacking substitution. But we again talked about this yesterday, and I feel as though that I agree with Clive that Calafiori should probably start this game against West Ham, and Miles Lewis-Skelly should start the game against Nottingham Forest, because they're different types of options. You're at home against West Ham. You've got more reason to be more offensive, and I think Calafiori is more attacking than Lewis-Skelly. So I would go with Calafiori on Saturday. And then Lewis-Skelly on Wednesday. 20 says, Feyenoord have some very good players, but I'd much rather prefer them to PSV. Would love for the fan base to get a glimpse of Milambo. Such an exciting prospect. Would love him at the carpet. Knowledge says, Sterling has been bad, but you can do at least be an impact player off the bench when the opposition are tired. Maybe. He's not really offered too much impact in games we have seen him come off the bench, and that is the big problem. Sladen says, I know the players want the starts, but much like Trossard, it takes a special player to come on, hit the ground running, and put in a goal as well. Trossard also needs to find some form, but it seemed that he did discover that when he went back to the left-hand side. So I think that definitely played a part in things for Arsenal. Evie says, hi, Tom. I don't think it's a case of wanting Feyenoord, but not wanting to be on the same side of the draw as Real Madrid. This is also very important. So, of course, if we get PSV, Arsenal will be in the same bracket as Real Madrid. If they're in the other side of the draw, they're in the same bracket as Bayern Munich. I'd much rather play Real Madrid in a final than I would across 2 legs. Gives us a better chance, I think, in the game. But to even get to a Champions League final is, it's going to take a massive undertaking to get there. And Bayern are no slouches either. You could argue they're better than they was last season. But would you back Arteta against company? probably. Peter says you could go Zinni on the left, Trossard in the left 8 if we need attacking changes from the bench, if we start Marino as well. Cully says, looks like Rangers are being bought by the Leeds owner. Do you think it's time the club starts looking to acquire foreign clubs as well? Talked about this before, very much in favour of a multi-club model, and I would like to see Arsenal move to look at potentially doing that. So yes. Cass says, if it's final, it won't be just Van Persie, because Arsenal will be facing his twin brother, Quentin Timber, as well. He is currently injured, though, and will be missing from any potential clash of Arsenal. I think he's just done a serious knee injury, so or a serious hamstring, one of the two. But he's going to be missing for those games. He's not going to be available and fit, sadly, for him. Paul says, do you think that White will get a run out against West Ham? I think there's a good chance we see White, yes, at the weekend. I think that's definitely something to consider. Proper Medja says, this is a silly line of reason. Would we start Sterling instead of Saka just to have something on the bench? No, obviously, but it's not the same. It's not someone playing in a natural position. It's someone who's come off the bench in the last game and made a significant impact. And if it doesn't work, you have to ask what you do have to be able to come off the bench to help. I know where you're coming from, but there is a concern that if you start Marino and don't score, have you really got anything that can change things? Carl says, Tom, big shout out to tourist fan Pete, who I sat with last night. This guy came all the way from LA, meeting his mate from New York and specifically going to the match and to attend the event. Yeah, massive shout out to a lot of our foreign listeners. We had some in attendance last night. Pleasure to meet so many of you as well that tuned in. Some they came. Look, they've come to the event. They're going for the game. I'm not buying the event bit. It's very humbling. It's very nice. The game. It's a benefit. It's a bonus. Maybe I'm overlooking it, but I struggle. I struggle to put that much importance on the TGT event. But there were some amazing people there last night. Some people who've been to the first time. Some people who've been to events before. But them being there and able to attend and see, some of their podcasting. People they've listened to for years, or people they've watched and listened to the podcast for years was great as well. Shaq says we have faced PSV too many times as well. I don't think we ever played Feyenoord, and Rotterdam is 10 times better to go to as well. And I'm certainly looking at that as the better trip. I've not been to either personally, but I think I'd rather go to Rotterdam. Dano says, what are your thoughts on Ekatike is spending a lot of money on attackers from Germany? Wise, considering when you go past the top four, what defenders are they even facing as well? Bundesliga is a good league. It's a good league. There's been loads of players come from Germany and do very, very well in the Premier League. So I wouldn't be worrying about that. We ourselves have signed a striker from the Bundesliga who went on to score loads of goals for us in Aubameyang. So I don't really buy too much into the league thing. Ekatike looks like he's having a really good season for Frankfurt. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on without Marmoush there and if that impacts him quite considerably. So or maybe it's the making of him even more, being kind of the main guy in the forward line. But I'm looking at somebody like Sesko as a preference of centre forward for that position. And Mike says Jeremy did have a funny Percy story on the live podcast. You'll have to listen to the show to find out what his funny story, and about Sylvain Wiltord as well. That was also a very, very funny story. Edison says Saka and Waneri are left-footed and play on the right. Miles Lewis-Skelly is also a left-footer, but I will play him on the right since Calafiori and others are fit to play, and Waneri in the 9. Asala says, Tom, if we can't sign Zubimendi this summer, whom would you like to see us go for in that position? That's a really tough question. I don't know. Sixers are really not that prevalent right now. I'd probably look into the Premier League. I'd probably look at someone like Baleba, to be honest, at Brighton, and look at his progression and his performances and see him as a real potential option for Arsenal, because I think he's impressed a hell of a lot. Another player I'm really enjoying watching is Dean Huijsen, the Bournemouth defender. He's been absolutely fantastic. He's a centre half, of course, and we know we're going to need to bring in a versatile option, and I think maybe you could look at Huijsen as somebody to consider. He's been absolutely fantastic as well. Fuad says, Tom, when's the latest you'd like our new sporting director to be announced? The latest? We're like May at the absolute latest, but I hope it's before that. Salah says, Tom, if we cut... Oh, we've done that one. EV says, hi, Tom, do you not think that we need to integrate one of the young strikers into the team in case we pick up another injury? I mean, we need to get some minutes, I think, into somebody like Butler or Deji, just so they've got some exposure. I think that's probably important. But we need to give the environment needs to be right. We need to give them the ability to, play when the pressure's off, rather than absolutely needing to score in their first real appearance for the team. Though the timing has to be right as well. Laughing Man says, can Miles Lewis, Skelly or Tiddy play on the left wing with 60 minutes? Trossard central, make changes at 60 with Marino through the middle as well. Definitely Tierney, I think, is someone to consider. Calafiori also as well. Martin says, is your decision to not guest on other pods because of some of the BS on the hybrid squad on Monday? No, it's not to do with like Sophie or any particular channel. It's just to do with people in chat boxes that are just horrible, and I just don't need to expose myself to it anymore. I just don't feel the need to expose myself to it, and I'm going to take a break for a while, Martin. So, but I don't know. I haven't caught up on that. So you're in the know more than me about that. Jamsey says, with Chelsea having posted annual losses over the last few seasons, barely scraping PSR and possible missing Champions League, do you think we could realistically see teams bid 60 to 80 million for the likes of Cole Palmer? Chelsea are going to have to sort out something. Because their spending has been mad, and they're not particularly improving loads either under Maresca compared to Pochettino last season. It's mad to think some Arsenal fans out there thought that he was going to win a trophy before Arteta. I mean, the Conference League, of course, is basically a given. If they don't win the Conference League, it's frankly a joke. But yeah, I have to say that I find utterly mad and insane. Artie says, with attackers out, I'm worried about all the teams that we're facing at this moment of the season as well. Me too. Matt says, great ideas, sick of Munich, let's just batter Madrid instead. Travis says, hi Tom, any thoughts on the rumoured summer signing of Scottish teenager Callan Hamill from St Johnstone? I've never heard of him before yesterday's articles. Yes, of course there is suggestions that Arsenal will be signing Callan Hamill from St Johnstone for a six-figure fee. I think he has played for Arsenal. I think he's been on trial with Arsenal. He's featured for Arsenal's youth level in pre-season of last year. So yes, he has played for Arsenal kind of on a trial basis, and now they're going to be looking to try and sign him on a 4-year contract, it says, according to the Courier in Scotland. So Hamill, who can play right back or centre back, is set to join the club. He's only 15. So, we're doing it again. It's a 15-year-old. It's impossible to have too much of an opinion on someone, again, still so incredibly young. GZ4 says, get guests on here, Tom. Control the room. Steve says, Tom, love Clive's point about 8% of the Premier League refs coming from Greater Manchester. Time for the Web and the PGMOL to address their geographical diversity. Absolutely. Ian says, stopping Bowen and Kudus would be a paramount for our win. Just a 1-0. Get 3 points. Don't care about the performance. Not in the next 2 to 3 matches. Bad performances could catch up later. We just have to win. And I absolutely agree. And Charles said this last night. If we win 1-0 every game rest of the season, I couldn't care less. Just win 1-0. Just keep winning 1-0. Just win. Just win the games. I don't care how we win them. Just win them. That is all that matters at this point, is just winning the games. Nathan says, I would start Sterling tomorrow just to see if he can pick up some form, and being at home, we should be able to score goals. Marino's impact off the bench is more vital now that we have no attackers. Alfie says, Tom, what games can we expect Saka and Martinelli back potentially? Late March, early April, I think is what is being suggested. But I don't like putting time frames. Do you remember the whole Porto for Timber last season thing? People thinking they knew things. It was always a case of we knew the time frame of an ACL, and he ended up coming back in May. And it was between, I think, April and May that we thought the return window would be. Came back in May on the last game of the season. So it's impossible really to put like a time frame. But the suggestions are late March, early April. But let's see if that turns out to be the case. Dan says, hi Tom, watching Winery at 17. How will you rank him amongst the best? Do you think he has the potential to be world class? You can see the talent. The talent's there. It's obvious. We can all see it. We all know how good he looks. You can't get away from that. You can't get away from how brilliant he looks right now. And I don't want to put too much pressure on the kid either. I think it's really important to kind of temper those expectations. Just a quick social note. Obviously, we went live this morning. If you're listening, maybe you usually listen on Twitter and you can't because it's not on Twitter. I removed my kind of paid subscriptions for Twitter for what should be very obvious reasons. But I got a notification this morning when we went live that you apparently need to have a subscription to go live on Twitter, to do a broadcast on Twitter. So apparently I need to get a premium subscription back to be able to do that. I'm going to let you decide whether I need to do that. I don't really want to have a blue tick next to my name. It doesn't make it's like almost a badge of shame these days. But it is the only way that we can stream on to X from here. But if you don't think that's necessary, then let me know. I'm happy to kind of leave that to the room and give that to you guys to sort out. I always tell people, if you're listening on X, you should listen on YouTube anyway. So I'm kind of inclined to say, if you've not got the message button out, I don't think I need to. I think I tweet it out. I tweet the show link out. I think that's all we need to do. So, yeah, I think YouTube's probably enough. And a lot of you are saying, yeah, don't do it. Twitter is a cesspool. Don't do it. Don't do it. YouTube is enough. Stay away. Nah, forget Twitter. So, yeah, I think get rid. I know. It's a horrible place owned by a horrible person. So I think we'll probably just have to cut. Twitter's done. Twitter's done for us. We're not going to be streaming on Twitter anymore. We're just going to be streaming to YouTube. And of course, on our audio platforms as well, where you can catch up on the audio anyway. We're going to end the show there this morning. I've got a lot to do today. I've got to go off to a press conference, got to get some stuff done. Thank you again to everybody that tuned in and came along yesterday. I'll endeavour to try and get the audio and the video, if I can get video, up for you as soon as feasibly possible. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe. Stay well. Stay happy. And as always, of course, up the Arsenal.